We might still be seeking, and there are some seekers then are seeking not necessarily to escape from their psychological or emotional suffering, but there's a subtle or gross suffering which has come from existential questions. Why am I here? What's the meaning of my life? Does God exist? Those kinds of questions. And I do meet people, and you've probably met people, who've had no significant psychological or emotional suffering in their life, but they're still, in a way, spiritual seekers. So usually something has started that seeking process, and then the thinking mind takes it, appropriates it, turns it into an object. And that's the nature of the thinking mind to do that. So rather than think that we can escape the loop, we accept the loop. We don't have to resist the loop. We recognize that none of the answers are to be found in the loop. None of the ultimate answers can be found by the thinking mind. So that's why all these concepts, these pointers that we use in these teachings, particularly in the Advaita teaching, are called pointers, are called concepts. They're not called truths, because they're pointing with concepts to what cannot be described or known by the intellect. The intellect can approximate what it is, but it can't actually know it. But the beauty of the thinking mind is it has this capacity. We can say it has a humility when it feels safe and secure. It actually has a humility where it will surrender. And in that surrendering, something else is seen. But that something else is seen not by the thinking mind, but by either the intuitive mind, whole mind, or we can call it heart, whatever you want to call it. When there's been a strong experience, and many of us have had peak experiences at some point in our life, often because we haven't heard these concepts early on in our life, or we've heard confusing concepts, contradictory concepts from different teachings and teachers, we don't understand what the peak experience was. So naturally, the intellect, which is needed to function in daily life, needs to understand what has happened. And when it doesn't fully understand what has happened, it keeps seeking that experience again, or a similar experience, or another experience, which it believes will be its destination. In other words, the seeker, the ego of the seeker, believes there is a destination, a goal. And that's not naturally turned into an object, because the thinking mind turns it into an object. The thinking mind turns everything into an object. So even experiences or states, however extreme they are and however extraordinary they are, still become objects in the thinking mind. And then many years, decades can go by where the thinking mind, the intellect, has not understood fully what has been directly experienced. And then when this is explained clearly to the thinking mind, and if the thinking mind resonates with that particular explanation, then there's a resting in the understanding. And then the understanding rests in the acceptance. And then what is understood is I cannot be or become an experience, because what I am is prior to all experiences or states. So then one stops searching for an experience, one stops searching for a goal, a destination point, a place of arrival. And one realizes that what has been seeking in the first place, and the path, and what one thought one would find, has always been the same thing. Consciousness, love, God. And that is what we already are. So then the thinking mind recognizes this initially intellectually, and then when it merges into the heart, so to speak, or split mind, through total acceptance, the intellectual seeking is over. And then awakening, self-realization, enlightenment may or may not happen. But even if it doesn't, the intellect is so at peace because there are no more any questions, because the concepts and teaching answer every question automatically as it arises. It doesn't care whether these words, enlightenment, self-realization, awakening have any meaning, whether anything is going to happen or not. And in a sense, that space of not caring, the uncaring, is the fertile ground for so-called awakening to happen. It doesn't always happen like that. It can happen even when somebody has had no seeking whatsoever, and suddenly, as a result of an illness, a broken heart, an accident, something, awakening can happen. But for most minds it seems that this undoing of what is learnt, what is known and believed, is necessary. And that's why the teachings use these concepts. Bit of a long answer.
Beautiful answer.
Does that resonate with you in any way?
Yeah. Oh, yes. Very much. About my seeking? Yeah.
Generally.
I've been seeking a long, long time.
Yes.
I moved to California to seek the new age of California.
Yes.
In 1990. And I've been seeking ever since, but my life has been sort of a series of deaths and rebirths. So I've been through a lot of periods of absolute darkness. So I've experienced times of being really clear and enlightened, kind of. Actually, I had this amazing enlightenment experience in India. I hate to date myself like this, but that was in 1975, when I had about 3 months of where my ego just dissolved and I felt at one with everything.
Yes.
Well, I'm very far from that now, so
You're not actually far from that at all.
What?
You're not actually far from that at all.
Okay.
It's just a belief.
Well, it's an experience.
No, it's not an experience. You think it's an experience. You believe it's an experience. That's the unlearning I'm talking about. When an experience like that happens, because it's so strong, we think it's foreign. We think it's new. Simply because we've never experienced it quite like that. But every night, all of us die. Every night of every day of our lives, all of us die. And when I say us, I mean the idea of us, the ego structure, us, the identification, us, and the story of who we are, us, dies every night. And in that death of deep sleep, there is the experience of enlightenment, but it's a very different experience to the one you had. It is not a oneness experience because there is nothing to merge with. So the oneness experience is not enlightenment. And I use the same concept as my teachers. There is the difference between experience, which is time-bound, comes and goes. It might be with you for many years. Some people have a so-called enlightenment experience, as you said, for 10 years or 15 years, and then it ends. That is not awakening or enlightenment or self-realization. That is a peak experience. This is my concept. But that can help to deepen the understanding of what we truly are. And it certainly helps to peel away the layers. And it certainly helps in this process of unlearning the beliefs that we hold so dear. Do you recognize any of that to be true?
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's why I said, then the desire to get the experience is often what keeps us imprisoned, keeps us in bondage, because it keeps us desiring something which we believe is not here, right now. So recognize just for a moment that you already are consciousness. What word do you like to use? Do you like the word God, consciousness, love, presence? or cheesecake, chocolate?
I do have a problem with everything is pure consciousness.
I hate the word pure as well.
I don't, or
Yeah.
consciousness.
Good.
I'm,
So what word would you like
I
to
guess
use?
I'm quoting, I mean, I love Deepak Chopra. His first spiritual law is everything is pure consciousness, is what he says. And I don't understand that, and I
Nor
don't
do I.
experience it.
I don't understand it either. What word do you like to explain everything that is, all space and time included, and the absence of both?
Divine.
Good. Let's use that word. So what I'm saying to you, John is divine. I'm not just saying John is divine. John is divine. I think John is quite divine. But the fundamental nature of John is divine and has always been divine. Do you accept that?
Yes.
Good.